Chapter 3, verses 1 through 100. 1. The prophets have brought you on earth the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life as fulfillment of what preceded it through Nicodemus' teaching. And before this he himself taught his teaching to his peoples as a guideline, sign-posting leading thought, to distinguish between being fair and unfair, between right and unright, and between truth and lie, as well as between honesty and unhonesty, and also between respect and slander, calumny. 2. And it is certain that those who deny the truth and the teaching of the prophets do not possess the Goblet of forgiveness, so they cannot forgive those who do terrible things to them. The measure of forgiveness is only given to the fair ones, responsible ones, and the knowing ones who forgive those who do terrible things to them. 3. Truly, all life has been created through the laws of the wellspring of the truth creation, and therefore they're the same laws according to which you were created in your mother's womb after fertilization, procreation. 4. And it is the prophets who have brought you the teaching about how these things happen, and how you shall behave in your existence, and how you shall be openly connected to it at all times, so that you do not bring suffering on yourselves and do not rob yourselves of the life. 5. The teaching of the prophets is of decisive importance for you and a guideline, signposting leading thought of the life, and therefore a foundation for leading the existence. 6. And the teaching of the prophets is not capable of different explanations because it is one teaching only and does not allow any misinterpretations. However, there are some amongst you who bear depravity in your thoughts and feelings, with the result that you think up from the teaching different explanations against the truth, because you want to lead into confusion and are looking for strained interpretations, falsifications, and contradictions, in order to sow the seeds of discord and delusion. But none amongst you who are looking for ambiguity and untruth, and are spreading falseness and delusional guidance. None of you know the true explanation of the teaching, because the real truth of the knowledge of the teaching is known only by those who have based their knowledge on the truth of the laws and recommendations of the creation. 7. Do not belong to those who deny and falsify the truth, because they will receive a poor reward and will suffer harm, since they are punishing themselves and are without true joy and friends. 8. And know that the teaching of the true prophets is based on the truth of the laws and recommendations of the creation. And know that the teaching is only understood by those who willingly bring forward the understanding for it and who turn to the real truth. 9. Make sure that you comprehend and understand the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, so that you will not become further depraved in yourselves, and will instead escape from your depravity. 10. See that you always guide yourselves rightly, and be yourselves vouchsafers, guarantors, authenticators, obligators, for all things that you shall do rightfully in order to lead your life in honesty and equitableness, fairness. 11. And you will certainly keep your promises that you make if you are fair ones, responsible ones, and ones knowing of the truth, and are without doubt in this. And if you also give a promise in front of your entire species of people of your kind, human species, as fair ones, responsible ones, and ones knowing of the truth, then the people will gather before you on the day when you give your promise, and the people will thank you and will give you its trust. 12. However, all of you who persist in being unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and ones who have no knowledge of the truth, you will gain no benefit from all your property and wealth when you are looking for true friendship, because only people of your kind, fellow human beings, will turn to you and your children. 13. You unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and ones without knowledge of the truth, you are the same as those who were unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and ones without knowledge of the truth before you, and who condemned the prophet signs, evidence marvels, and their teaching, for which they reaped iniquity and harm, as will be the same on your way. 14. You unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and unknowing ones in the truth who are chained to a belief in a god or 10 gods, you are allowing yourselves to be overwhelmed by unright and by false teachings and lies, so you collect, store up in yourselves everything that burns in a terrible state, condition, of the psyche and the inner world, consciousness, as the fire of the realm of the shadow world, realm of hell. And truly, This is a terrible condition, and is no place of rest and wish. Good liberation, joy, gratification, and rest can be found in love and peace, as well as in freedom and attunement, harmony. 15. Truly, the prophets have given you signs, evidence, and marvels, so that you shall turn yourselves to the truth of the creative creation, and shall fight for the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life in a peaceful wise, without weapons, and through rationality and intellect with good words, so that love may grow all around you, as well as peace and freedom and attunement, harmony. 16. And care for the sick and watch out for their healing, and offer consolation to those in mourning, and be helpful to them in all things that they need. 17. Strengthen your support for all those who require it, so that they will also become strong and can give their support to others. 18. And open your senses to the teaching of the truth, so that you will become knowing in it and be able to lead a life that fulfills the laws and recommendations of the creative creation. 19. Consider your life is made beautiful through all the gifts of the creative creation, through all the things that you desire, through your women and men and children, through all the animals and other creatures, the plants and trees, through the entire appearance, nature, and the amassed piles of those uncountable things that bring you joy and pleasure. All of this is supplied for your existence by the creative creation on earth, which is your beautiful homestead in your life. 20. And there can be no better news for you than that you will have a comprehensively good existence if you follow the teaching of the prophets, which is the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal raising creation. And if you uphold love and peace amongst yourselves, as well as freedom and attunement, harmony. 21. For those who fear the unright and unknowledgeness, the vast garden of the truth is full of good and nourishing fruits, and the streams which flow through the garden are full of good and healing waters, and you shall live in this garden in pleasure, so that you live in love and peace, and fulfill freedom and attunement, harmony. 22. And see, when you are present in the truth, you will forgive the fallible ones, and prevent yourselves from doing unright. 23. And if you are steadfast and truthful and obedient in following the teaching of the prophets, which is the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal raising creation, then you will be free in your thoughts and feelings and will lead a praiseworthy life. 24. And know that the laws and recommendations of the primal raising creation confirm that there is no primal raising creation except for it. Therefore there are neither gods nor tin gods, nor people of your kind, human beings or liberators, angels, and demons who stand above it. And so know that those who possess the true knowledge about the real truth are the keepers of equitableness, fairness, whom you shall follow, so that you too will be fair and connected to equitableness, fairness. 25. Truly, the true teaching of the truth, teaching of the Spirit, teaching of the life, is the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the origin creation, as it is explained by the prophets. And only the truth teaching brings the acquiescence, forbearance, that the fulfillment of the life demands, so that life may thrive and not wither. 26. Do not allow yourselves to become disunited in the teaching of the truth, and do not allow envy to come over you for its sake, because the teaching is indubitable. Therefore it cannot be misconstrued, incorrectly explained, because it is given in clarity and cannot be twisted, falsified. And whoever denies or twists, falsifies the truth of the teaching and its true explanation of the teaching is guilty of committing a lie and slander, calumny. And truly, whoever is guilty of committing a lie and slander, calumny, truly has no loyal friends who could keep him or her grounded in the face of misery. 27. If those who are traitors or turncoats, secessionists, or adversaries to the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life dispute with you, then do not surrender to them, and do not follow them. If, however, you surrender to the traitors or turncoats, secessionists, or the adversaries to the teaching of the truth, then you'll be badly led and brought onto the path of confusion, so that you do not find the way of the truth and do not fulfill your duty of the present existence, because you are following false messages and are also yourselves passing on, spreading false messages. 28. Truly, the unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and traitors, the turncoats, secessionists, and the adversaries who deny the signs, evidence, of the truth and with a false tongue, insult, twist it to their advantage. They are the ones who are falsifying all signs, marvels, and the truth of the teaching of the prophets and the laws and recommendations of the primal raising creation. And they are liars, as are also the scandalmongers and priests who call on their god, or tin gods and race, themselves to the status of their representatives, substitutes, and who commit bloody deeds, murder, in their name and kill and pillage in other respects, just as they also defile women and children or have such misdeeds conducted by their henchmen. And these unfair ones, irresponsible ones, are the ones who talk about the gods and tin gods that they have thought up, invented, in their greed for might and their avarice, and who preach love and equitableness, fairness, in their name, whilst on the contrary, demanding hatred and revenge and retaliation for everything if you oppose the fabulated, invented will of the gods and tin gods. Although in truth this is an opposition against the bondage of the priests and therefore against the servants of gods and servants of tin gods, because gods and tin gods are not real, but are mere fabulations, inventions, by those who obtain worldly gain from these lies. 29. All the deeds of the unfair ones, irresponsible ones, who set themselves over you as servants of gods and servants of tin gods are not, and you shall neither be a believer nor a helper of them, because if you are then, like them, you will be far from the truth and far from the laws and recommendations of the primal raising, creation, and therefore also servants of gods or servants of tin gods. However, if you are believers in gods or tin gods and in servants of gods or servants of tin gods, then you are acting the unright like them and against the truth and the laws and recommendations of the primal raising, creation, which are given in the regulation that you shall be yourselves, and therefore that no might shall stand over you which you are obliged to follow, except for yourselves and your own responsibility for all things which you approach and which you perform. 30. And if you have cognizance of the truth teaching of the prophets, and if you follow the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal raising, creation, then you shall be called upon to lead your life in accordance with the guideline, law, and recommendation, signposting leading thought. And therefore, in cognizance of the truth, teaching, you shall call on yourselves to decide, determine, rightfully between good and evil, and between right and unright, because you yourselves shall be truth, and not turn away from it in unwillingness. 31. The fire of the untruth shall not touch you, not even for a limited number of days. Do not be accustomed to falsifying the truth yourselves, so that you may not be deceived in your knowledge about the truth. 32. If you gather on a day and in a place in order to listen to the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, then make sure that there is no doubt in you, so that you merit in honorableness the knowledge and wisdom and equitableness, fairness, which is given to you, so that you do not suffer any unright in your knowledge about the truth. 33. Pass on your knowledge of the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal raising, creation, and the teaching of the prophets, to whom you want, and take the truth and the teaching from anyone, from whom you want, but do not set yourselves above others with it, so that you do not debase them. Take everything that is good and everything that is truthful, then you will have might over all things in you. 34. And do not allow either day or night to pass without you learning and without turning yourselves to the truth of the primal raising, creation, and its laws and recommendations, because everything living comes forth from the truth of the primal raising, creation, and its laws and recommendations, just as from the living the lifeless comes, from which, in turn, new life emerges. 35. And pay attention to what and how you pass on the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life in truliness, so that no misunderstanding may arise and no ambiguity may come forth. And pass on the teaching of the prophets to whomever you want, and do it without measure, but only ever if you are asked to do so, so that you and the teaching may not be unwanted and do not create vexation. 36. Believers in a God or 10 gods, as well as those who are unknowing ones in the truth and unfair ones, irresponsible ones, may be your friends because they are basically people of your kind, human being, as you are, and you shall respect them as such, but do not copy them in their unknowledge, in their iniquity, unfairness, and in their serving gods and serving 10 gods, so that you may be free from this and will not enter into any connection with their doings. Gird yourselves with caution for the doings of your friends who are unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and unknowing ones and believers in gods and 10 gods, because they are passing by the truth and are thinking of leading you into their delusion if you allow yourselves to be misled by them. Therefore be warned and only act rightfully, as you are told, recommended, by the real truth of the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life. 37. If you conceal some untruth or dishonorableness that is in your inner world, consciousness, or if you make it known, then be certain, knowing, that you cannot keep it secret for a long time, because untruthfulness and dishonorableness will come to the light of the truth at their time. Therefore you shall not lie or do honorless things, so that you may always have might over your words of the truth and honorableness. 38. If you have fallen prey to the untruth and dishonorableness, then consider the day when you will be gathered by others and convicted of lying and dishonor, and it is held against you that instead of doing good and fair, responsible, things you only did evil and unfair, irresponsible things, and when this day comes, you will wish that there was a great gap between the day of giving account and your unfair, irresponsible, and evil doings. Therefore be warned against your own shame, even if others are benevolent and kind to you. 39. If you love the truth of the laws and recommendations of the origination, creation, then follow it, and it is certain that you will be respected and loved by all those to whom you do good from this truth. But if there are bad ones amongst them who are unknowing in the truth and are unfair and will therefore do evil to you, then forgive them their faults, because as unknowing ones and unfair ones, irresponsible ones, they do not know what they are doing. 40. That one amongst you who chooses the real truth is the only one to walk the way of equitableness, fairness, and respect for life, and not to act against the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of wisdom, creation. 41. Be loyal to the truth, and promise it to be true to it, and dedicate your obligation to it alone in the sense of fulfilling life that is given in the swelling evolution of the inner world, consciousness, and of the spirit. 42. Obey your own rationality and do not allow yourselves to be misled by irrational ones and unfair ones, irresponsible ones, so that you will not suffer any harm in the exercise of your rationality through your thoughts and feelings or your deeds and wishes. 43. Be at all times fair and honest, and consider that you are all related and connected to one another as created creations, life forms, and inhabitants of your world. 44. And as you're all born from your mother's wombs, so you are all born from the womb of the wellspring of wisdom, creation, so that you may be dedicated to life and may truly lead it in equitableness, fairness, and respect. 45. And as you are born from the womb of your mothers, so your children will also be born from the womb of their mothers. And it shall be that you treat them honorably, whether they are female or male, because each created sex is worthy of the life and honor, in equitableness, fairness, and in dignity. Therefore no distinction is to be made by you between children of female or male gender. 46. And be certain, knowing, that no child shall be preferred before another and appointed, esteemed, valued, more than another one. And therefore a female child is of no greater worth than a male child, and a male child is of no greater worth than a female one. Instead, it shall be that offspring of either sex are included into the same rights and the same freedom, as well as the same honor and dignity. 47. And consider that when children come forth from the womb of a mother, that you are responsible for their thriving and their provision, and that they are instructed, taught, rightfully in all things of the preparation, education, and in the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, And you shall also be responsible for instructing your offspring in the influences, factors, effects of dying and of death, as it is explained in the teaching of the life. And if a woman is pregnant, then she shall carry the growing life in honor and dignity, so that its forming will be completed in its time and born. And if it is given that the fruit of the womb endangers the life of the pregnant woman, or if it is given that the fruit of the womb is demonstrably terribly deformed or incapable of life, then it shall be that the unborn life is interrupted in its development and aborted. And women shall not be reproached for this, because this doing is rightful, providing the reason, precondition, is given for it. Do not heed the delusional teachings of false wise people and false prophets, neither those of priests or other servants of gods and servants of tin gods and truth distorters who instruct, teach other things and spread teachings that are lies. 48. Always be kind and patient with your offspring and instruct, teach them the real truth in all things, because they're the ones who will steer the situation of the world after you. Therefore tell them what they shall do rightfully and in equitableness, fairness, as you instruct, teach them. Allow your offspring to grow up in well-disposed growth, the female and the male, and be good caretakers, guardians, and benefactors to them in all things, so that they may become true people of your kind, human beings, in all respects, regards. 49. And pay heed that, if you desire children, you do not make them into believers in gods and tin gods, and that priests and other servants of gods and servants of tin gods do not lead them astray into submissiveness, because your offspring shall be free in their thoughts and feelings, as well as in their determinations, decisions, and their deeds in all things. And pay heed that belief and submissiveness fight against and suppress, prevent your own determinations, decisions, and own deeds in your own responsibility, resulting in a subjection, subordination, dependency, subjugation, servitude. 50. Do not heed those who bring delusional teachings, who pray to gods and tin gods, and pay homage to them, glorify them, in cults and rituals, and who set themselves up above you in their hazy picture, delusion, of their belief as priests and the like, and they heat up their desire in your masses, bathe in the mass of people, take a bath, and let themselves be celebrated, glorified, cheered, and praised when you are gathered around them. Do not pay heed to them, because they are unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and self-righteous ones, vain ones, arrogant ones, falsely pious ones, who let themselves appear brilliant before you and deceive you with their belief and falsify the truth for you. 51. Do not call on any gods or any tin gods, any liberators, angels, and demons, neither on any people of your kind, human beings, in the belief that they might be equivalent to the wellspring of the love, creation, because in truth they cannot be this, since gods and tin gods, as well as liberators, angels, and demons, and false miracles, absurdities, are only fabulations, inventions, created by people of your kind, human beings, and powerless hallucinations, delusional constructions, and phantasms of your brain. Therefore do not search for signs, evidence, and miracles, outstanding things. In them, neither good news, because they cannot give them, being incapable of doing this, because truly signs, marvels, of the truth can only be given by those who are capable of confirming the true strength of the wellspring of the love, creation, in respect and equitableness, fairness, through the strength of their inner world, consciousness, and only those who have knowledge of the truth, the righteous ones, conscientious ones, and especially, in particular, the true prophets can confirm the truth and the signs, marvels, and the words. 52. Therefore do not debase yourselves before gods and tin gods, neither before liberators, angels, and venerable ones, holy ones, and demons, nor before people of your kind, human beings, because it is not seemly for you to debase yourselves before them and pray to them. And if you want to make a prayer, then pray to your inner world, consciousness, because it is this which realizes out of its might what you ask of it and create through your own power. However, no material things can be achieved by your inner world, consciousness, but only all that which you are able to create through your might of your inner world, consciousness, and your thoughts and feelings. Therefore be obedient to the truth, and do not debase yourselves in order to beg things from mights that are powerless or have no presence, are inexistent. 53. The truth shall grow in each of you and bear fruit, so that when you have advanced in years you will go hand in hand with knowledge and wisdom and fruitfully instruct, teach, those who are still unknowing and who need the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life. 54. Do not ask the prophets to give signs, marvels, and miracles, outstanding things, as proof of their truth teaching, because their honest word and their true teaching shall be sufficient evidence for you. 55. And be certain, knowing, that if you allow the true words of the teaching of the prophets to penetrate into you, and if you yourselves think about it and search for the truth in yourselves, then you will also find the proof of the truth in yourselves. And if you do the same, then you will cleanse yourselves in your inner world, consciousness, and in the understanding of the truth, so that you will surely elevate yourselves to be the ones knowing of the truth, and fair ones, responsible ones. 56. The announcement of the prophets, their teaching of the truth, their teaching of the Spirit, their teaching of the life, is not an announcement of the unseen, unconscious, because the teaching is based on the laws and recommendations that are visible in everything and come from the wellspring of the love, creation, which reveals everything unremittingly. You, however, shall make yourselves capable of recognizing the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of the love, creation, in you and in the appearance, nature, and in all things, so that you become all-knowing and recognize and follow the truth. 57. Recognize the truth in yourselves alone, because you are only able to find it in yourselves and not, however, in fabulated, invented gods and tin gods and liberators, angels, and venerable ones, holy ones, and demons, and not either amongst those who lead you into confusion as priests and servants of gods and servants of tin gods, as well as false prophets. Do not listen to those who quarrel with one another regarding their sanctimoniousness and their delusional teachings, and who lead the believers in their gods and tin gods into battles, wars, and command punishment and hatred and revenge, as well as the spilling of blood and destruction in order to impose servitude, bondage, and their beliefs on those who believe otherwise. 58. Listen to the good tidings of each word of your true prophets, and be honored to be allowed to receive the words and the tidings of the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life through the prophets, so that you yourselves also go out into the world and bring the words and the tidings of the truth to all those who want to hear it and make it their own. 59. And teach your children the truth teaching whilst they are still in the cradle, and continue to teach them until they come of age, grow up, so that they may also teach their descendants if they beget them and bring them into the world. Act so that you and your descendants are righteous ones, conscientious ones, and are knowing ones in the truth, and fair ones, responsible ones. 60. And if you say a prayer in truliness to your inner world, consciousness, for something to come about that you rightfully wish for yourselves, and you do everything so that it may come about, then it will do so. 61. And if you speak to your inner world, consciousness, in prayer, then make sure that your words are not babbling, but are spoken in rationality, because it is not your babbling, but instead your intellect and your rationality which create might in the inner world, consciousness, from which what you are asking for becomes reality. 62. And heed the prophets who sent themselves out to you and send themselves out to you in order to bring you the signs, marvels, and the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, so that you may become knowing in the truth about the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, which you shall follow. 63. And the prophets come to teach you about what was before you and what will come after you. And they proclaim to you what you shall eat and drink, and what you shall store up in your houses, so that you do not have to suffer from hunger or thirst in times when food is scarce. 64. And the prophets come to proclaim to you what the prophets taught and brought before them of the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life. And they come to allow you what has been prohibited, forbidden, by false prophets and servants of gods, as well as by servants of 10 gods and priests through delusional teachings. And the true prophets come with the signs, marvels, and words of the truth, so that you may be liberated from senseless laws and directions that have been fabulated, invented, and imposed on you by priests and servants of 10 gods and servants of gods. Do not obey the senseless laws and directions made up, invented, by people of your kind, human beings, which are oriented towards a belief in gods and 10 gods, because in truth they only serve to keep you in submissiveness and in servitude, bondage, held under the spell of the belief in gods and 10 gods. 65. Escape from unknowledge and turn yourselves to the knowledge of the truth, so that you may become helpers in the matter of the truth, and that you may confirm the fact that it alone brings prosperousness and true love and peace. 66. And truly, let only the truth be your companion and the power of guidance through your present existence. 67. Follow the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, at all times, as they have been taught to you by the prophets, so that you can name yourselves confirmers of the truth and of the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life. 68. And plan your lives through the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, and follow your plan so that you do the same as the primal power, creation, because it also planned and followed its plan by creating the firmaments, universe, and earths, worlds, planets, and all life, and let it become truth. Therefore you shall do the same as the primal power, creation, and plan everything and let it become reality, which is of goodness and of unfolding progress, so that you may be the best planners who have proceeded from the planning idea of the primal power, creation. 69. And consider that you shall always die a natural death, and shall never presume to end your life yourselves, so that you do not besmirch your will and freedom, and do not bring dishonor and dignitylessness down on yourselves. 70. And do not allow yourselves to be confused by taunts, insults, and lies from those who maintain through lies and deception and chicken-heartedness, cowardice, and therefore through unknowledgeness, that it is rightful to lay a hand on one's own life in order to deliver it ignominiously over to death. 71. And do not disregard this recommendation, so that you do not follow in the footsteps of those who have disregarded it, and persist in unknowledge about the truth, and make themselves guilty of the bloody deed, murder, on themselves. 72. Regarding the unknowledgeness that is directed against the truth teaching of the proclaimers, the prophets, and therefore against the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, it is taught to you that you are punishing yourselves if you disdain the truth and accommodate unknowledgeness and help its advancement, furtherance. Because truly your guilt will bring a punishment in yourselves, because you have fallen prey to lovelessness and unpeace. 73. As far as those of you are concerned who are knowing in the truth and do good deeds and do not commit any outrages, you will receive full reward for this through true love and esteem, and therefore joy and peace and harmony and freedom will be in you. 74. And what the prophets announce, teach. In these things are signs, evidence, of the laws and recommendations of the creation, and so may everything be wise admonishment. 75. And what the teaching of the prophets brings is the truth of all truth, and therefore there is no doubt in it, because it is the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the creation, so that you may follow it. 76. And truly, the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life is broad and large in its dimension. Therefore it never comes to an end, and always continues through new insight, cognition, and clear-sightedness, as well as through new recognition and understanding. 77. But whoever now disputes the truth regarding what has been given to you in knowledge and wisdom of the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, the human being fervently suggests himself or herself as a liar. 78. And truly, only the truth of the primal power, creation, has validity through its laws and recommendations, and only the teaching of its truth is a truthful message and explanation. And therefore only the primal power, creation, is the truthfully one for you to confer respect and dignity, because it alone is in goodness and love and wisdom the sole might in the firmaments, universe, and on the earths, worlds, planets, and just as respect and dignity shall be paid to the primal power, creation. Nothing of the same or in the same wise shall be paid to all the fabulated, invented gods and tin gods, and neither to the people of your kind, human beings, nor to liberators, angels, and demons, venerable ones, holy ones, priests and the like, who are only servants of gods and servants of tin gods, because truly they are not worthy of worship, which is what they all crave. The primal power, creation, does not demand worship, because worship is only a confused and bad work of people of your kind, work of human beings, which leads to submissiveness and unfreedom and a servitude, bondage. If you do say a prayer, then do not do so in worship, which is dignityless supplication and begging without honor and calling for magic rituals, and is not the same as praying, which is a directed call for something valueful and perceptions to arise from the inner world. Consciousness, so that everything shall come about through your own might in order to serve progress, evolution. 79. If you turn yourselves away from the truth, then consider that you will be overwhelmed by those causing terribleness. 80. You who have knowledge, and you who have no knowledge of the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, come by at all times for a word which is at the same level between you and the prophets, so that you may hear their teaching and may ask them about its sense. And so that you learn not to pray to any gods and tin gods, neither any priests nor other servants of tin gods and servants of gods, liberators, angels, demons, and venerable ones, holy ones. And so that you learn not to place people of your kind beside the primal power, creation, and so that there are none amongst you who are spreading a false teaching and giving false witness, false oath, or killing an Ausartung. 81. Be at all times discerning in your thoughts, and live only according to the guideline, signposting leading thought, of the truth, so that it may go well with you through this, and you can bear witness to this. 82. Do not quarrel over the teaching of the truth that has already been given to you since time immemorial, because it is always the same teaching that was given to you by the prophets from the line of Nokodemean. Therefore, everything that has been disclosed to you is the same, although always in new words according to your understanding. Do you not want to comprehend this? 83. See now, you are the ones who since time immemorial have always disputed what you have received in cognizance of the teaching of the truth through the prophets. And it is you who are disputing something of which you have no cognizance whatsoever, and what is hidden from you, about which you also know nothing. 84. Do not be believers in any of the gods or tin gods, and do not be believers in any priests or other servants of gods or servants of tin gods, and do not be believers in liberators, angels, and demons and venerable ones, holy ones, but instead be connected to the truth of the laws and recommendations of the formation, creation, and be obedient to it, so that you may not be amongst those who place gods and tin gods, as well as priests and other servants of tin gods and servants of gods, and liberators, angels, and venerable ones, holy ones, beside the truthly formation, creation. 85. And truly, those amongst you who are closest to the teaching of the prophets are you who follow the truth teaching, and who are knowing ones and fair ones, responsible ones, and you who honor and protect the true prophets who are true fathers to you in love. 86. One part of the people would like to lead you into confusion about the teaching of the truth, because they are believers in fabulated, invented cults and gods and tin gods, as well as in demons and liberators, angels, priests and other servants, hand-helpers of tin gods and godheads, as well as in venerable ones, holy ones, who are all merely the hallucinations, delusional constructions of those who are leading, guiding themselves into confusion, but they also lead you into confusion and exploit and subjugate you. It is just that you do not want to comprehend this truth. 87. Because you do not want to comprehend the truth, you deny the signs, evidence of the truth and the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life that has been brought to you by the prophets, and all this despite you being bystanders, witnesses, of the signs evidence, and the teaching of the prophets and the laws and recommendations of the formation, creation, and of the appearance, nature. 88. Do not mix truth and falseness together, neither good nor evil, and do not knowingly, consciously dissimulate, conceal, falsify, deny the truth. 89. And do not be of the behavior that, during the first half of the day, you turn to the truth and to everything that it discloses, after which you subsequently deny everything and hope that the ones who are knowing of the truth may perhaps return to your unknowledge and to your inequity, unfairness. 90. And only follow the one who follows the truth, because true leadership, guidance, is only found in it. And the truth is also found in that you shall give, as is given to you, provided that it is of the truth and goodness. However, you shall not repay measure for measure if it concerns falseness, lying, vilification, insult, slander, calumny, and terrible things and evil. If you do not follow this recommendation, then discord, hatred, and strife cannot be avoided. 91. Decide to conduct yourselves with respect and benevolence, humanity, towards people of your kind, human beings, and always have endless grace, esteem, compassion, benevolence, love, mildness for them. 92. If a treasure, goods and chattels, possessions, fortune, etc., is entrusted to you, then give it back in the same measure as you received it. Do not be unfair ones, irresponsible ones, to whom a treasure, goods and chattels, possessions, fortune, etc., is entrusted and then it is not returned to the full extent or not at all. And do not be unfair ones, irresponsible ones, in that you receive an advance, loan, or an accommodation, short-term loan, and is given back only if the receiver of the advance, debtor, or the receiver of the accommodation, debtor, has been continuously chased after or following recourse to jurisdiction. 93. Consider the untaught ones, the unknowing ones, and the unfair ones, irresponsible ones, because you also have an obligation towards them to be helpful to them in good things, and to instruct, teach them in the truth teaching, even though they speak out in lies and slanders, calumnies, and vilifications against the truth and the teaching of the truth of the prophets. 94. And if you fulfill all your obligations and fear, refuse, reject the unfair, irresponsible, and the untruth, then you will be able in honesty to enjoy your own well-being. 95. Those who accept a miserable measure, price, in exchange for the bond with the truth of the creation and its laws and recommendations, and take oaths against the truth, they will have no true part in existence, because they are unfree in themselves and loveless towards themselves, and therefore they are lacking inner freedom, peace and consonance, harmony. Therefore, however, the honest ones and fair ones, responsible ones, and those who are knowing of the truth will not be connected to them in friendship, so they are awaiting their own painful punishment. But if they clean themselves from their disasters, then they may be certain, knowing that the upright ones and fair ones, responsible ones, and those who are knowing of the truth will be connected to them in respectful, honorable friendship. 96. Truly, there are many amongst you who twist your tongues, are hypocritical, so that you others believe that they were talking about the truth teaching, although their words are not from the teaching. They're lying and claiming that what they're saying has been taught by the prophets, but they're only expressing lies against the prophets, and they know it. 97. Considering that the prophets have given you the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, it is not seemly for you to twist, falsify their words when teaching it, so that people of your kind, fellow human beings, may be your servants, hands helpers, and be subservient to you. Be at all times fair and teach the teaching as it has been given to you by the prophets, and make sure that the people of your kind, human beings, do not bow down, fall in bondage to you, and do not become your zealots, fanatics, but are loyally connected to the truth teaching and the creation. 98. It is not possible for the prophets to command you to accept the truth teaching and follow it, because you must decide for yourselves whether you want to be connected to the teaching or not. If the prophets were to command you, then they would be the same as the rulers who impose coercion on their subjects and subjugate them when you have given yourselves up to their Gevalt. 99. And think of the bond that the prophets made with themselves in times of yore, so that you shall receive instruction, teaching, and guidance in the truth teaching through them, which is why they have brought the teaching of the knowledge and the wisdom to you up to the present day, in order to fulfill their bond that they made with themselves, so that you would be knowing in the truth, and help yourselves to reach truliness, pureness as a true human being. And think of the bond that the prophets entered in themselves with you the people, so that you would become fruitful through your understanding of the truth, and would form your inner world consciousness in such a wise as to turn yourselves to love and peace, as well as to knowledge and wisdom, so that true peace prevails in you and amongst you. 100. To enable everything to arise in you, which is of great value, and brings you unfolding evolution in your inner world consciousness, and in the thoughts and feelings as well as in your psyche, and also that all your virtues may prosper, you have to agree to create all the great values in yourselves, which can only happen if you perceive your responsibility to its full extent. And as you agree and turn yourselves to your nobleness, virtues, and fulfill it in all forms, then you confirm the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life as has been brought to you by the prophets.